It started as an ordinary Friday night. My roommates and I decided to spend the evening binge-watching horror movies in our dimly lit living room. The flickering screen cast eerie shadows on the walls, setting the perfect ambience for a night of scares. We were three: Mike, Sarah, and me. Our apartment was an old, creaky place, full of character and, as we like to joke, probably haunted. The movies we watched only served to heighten our paranoia, but we thrived on the thrill. Around midnight, we decided to take a break. Sarah went to the kitchen to grab more snacks, and Mike disappeared into his room, probably to text his girlfriend. I stayed in the living room, scrolling through my phone, feeling the heavy weight of the silence that had settled. That's when I heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible whisper. At first, I thought it was the remnants of the movie soundtrack, but the TV was off. I strained my ears, trying to catch it again. "Help me." It was a child's voice, fragile and desperate. My blood ran cold. I stood up, my heart pounding, and called out to my friends. "Guys, did you hear that?" No response. I walked to the kitchen, finding Sarah engrossed in pouring chips into a bowl. She looked up at me with a puzzled expression. "Hear what?" she asked. A voice like a little kid whispering. She frowned. "Probably just the wind. This place is old, you know." I wasn't convinced, but I nodded, not wanting to seem paranoid. I grabbed a soda and returned to the living room, trying to shake off the unease. Minutes later, Mike returned, and we resumed our movie marathon. Yet, the feeling of being watched gnawed at me. I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see someone or something standing in the doorway. It was around 2 a.m. when it happened again. The whisper, clearer this time. "Help me." I jumped up, my nerves frayed. "Did you hear that?" I almost shouted. Mike and Sarah looked at me like I was losing my mind. "Hear what, dude?" Mike asked, clearly annoyed. The voice. A little kid saying, "Help me." Sarah's face paled slightly, but she forced a laugh. "You've had too much caffeine. Relax." I couldn't shake the feeling. I knew what I heard. Determined to find the source, I grabbed a flashlight and announced that I was going to check the basement. "Seriously?" Mike groaned. "There's nothing down there except old junk." Ignoring him, I made my way to the basement door. The air grew colder as I descended the creaky stairs. The basement was a mess of boxes, old furniture, and cobwebs. The flashlight's beam cut through the darkness, casting eerie shadows. I stood in the middle of the basement, listening. The silence was deafening, but then, ever so faintly, the whisper returned. "Help me." I followed the voice to a corner cluttered with old boxes. With trembling hands, I moved them aside, revealing a small, hidden door. My heart pounded as I opened it, revealing a tiny, dust-covered room. Inside, huddled in the corner, was a little girl. Her clothes were tattered, and her eyes were wide with fear. She looked up at me, her voice barely a whisper. "Please help me." I couldn't believe my eyes. How had she gotten here? Who is she? Suddenly, footsteps echoed from behind. I turned to see Mike and Sarah standing at the bottom of the stairs, their faces pale. They had heard the whisper this time. "What the hell is this?" Mike asked, his voice shaky. Before I could answer, the girl spoke again. "They're coming, they'll hurt us." As if on cue, a loud, bone-chilling creak echoed through the basement. The temperature dropped even further, and an oppressive darkness seemed to seep into the room. We were not alone. I grabbed the girl's hand and bolted for the stairs, Mike and Sarah close behind. We stumbled up into the living room, slamming the basement door shut behind us. Breathless and terrified, we huddled together, the girl clutching my hand tightly. We could hear whispers all around us now, growing louder, more insistent. "We need to get out of here," Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with terror. We didn't need to be told twice. We grabbed our keys, pulled the girl along, and fled the apartment. As we drove away, I glanced back at the old building. For a brief moment, I saw a shadowy figure standing in the window, watching us leave. We never returned to that apartment. Whatever was down there, whatever had trapped that poor girl, we wanted no part of it. We moved to a new place, far away, but the memory of that night still haunts us. And sometimes, just as I'm drifting off to sleep, I swear I can still hear the faint whisper, "Help me,